Year-old Detroit girl back in 2007. But before he could face justice, he escaped and was on the run for more than a decade.
He was recently found in Mexico, living under a fake name. In tonight's Most Wanted, Fox 2's Erica Erickson with an inside look into how U.S. Marshals finally tracked him down.
He is a wolf in sheep's clothing.
On the hunt for an accused child rapist for over a decade.
None of us quit.
The man haunting the U.S. Marshals Office accused of kidnapping and brutally raping a 10-year-old Detroit girl.
We always pursue. We never stop the hunt.
Finally caught.
We were working for her. We wanted her to have justice.
It was back in the summer of 2007 when cops believed 41-year-old Corey Gaston, back then 29 years old, had been at a friend's house for a barbecue, not far from where a 10-year-old girl lived on Pearson Street on the city's west side. Gaston likely spotting the girl and carefully watching her. Police say in the middle of the night on June 27th, 2007, he crawled through her bedroom window. The little girl, now 23 years old, tells Fox 2, a fan crashing to the floor woke her up.
I still remember everything. I will never forget that.
She says she was half asleep and thought Gaston was a family member until he threw her over his shoulder.
I remember when he walked me to the bushes and told me to keep quiet.
Putting his hand over her mouth and threatening to kill her if she screamed. This young woman says she cried silently while he brutally raped her. You said, I'm gonna do what he says.
Yes.
I gotta get out of here alive.
Yes, I didn't know he was going to take me back home. Thank God he did.
Only returning her to her home because he dropped his cell phone. The little girl banging on her brother's window. Gaston scared off.
My brother, he saved my life.
Police finding Gaston's phone and DNA at the scene, arresting him just days later. But Gaston posting a $20,000 bond and taking off. U.S. Marshals later arresting him in Georgia. But in February of 2008, while preparing for trial, Gaston given a $50,000 bond, his family fronting the money.
When the court date came around, he was nowhere to be found.
U.S. Marshals say Gaston's family and friends were no help. Cops forced to take a fresh look at the case, going to the media, reaching out to investigators across the country, running Gaston's DNA through several databases. And what'd you come up with?
Nothing.
How rare is that?
Extremely rare. Extremely rare.
And in 2011, Gaston becoming one of the U.S. Marshals' top 15 most wanted.
In addition to getting his face out there and being, one of the worst of the worst, the entire time we're like working for, a 10-year-old girl.
Now, more resources and a big chunk of change being offered to find him.
Essentially, the investigators were walking around with a check for $25,000 to anybody that will help us.
Taking on the case in 2013, Deputy U.S. Marshal Robert Watson says they tried using facial recognition technology, running checks in every state.
Poured through thousands of photos, trying to find somebody, trying to find anything that we could.
Watson says they received thousands of tips from across the country and, of course, looked into every single one of them. He says they were finally able to narrow down Gaston's whereabouts to Alabama, Tennessee, Southern California, and Mexico.
We had just, binders of information that we were going through trying to find a pattern.
U.S. Marshals say Corey Gaston's case isn't typical. The Detroiter from a close family, called the life of the party, educated with no criminal history. Cops hoping a family or friend or Gaston would slip up. But nothing until August of 2019. This is video of Gaston in Guadalajara, Mexico.
He was selling trinkets almost as a street vendor.
Mexican authorities in the middle of an immigration sweep searching for Honduran nationals, beginning to question Gaston.
And this is just based on a gut instinct of this guy doesn't fit here?
Yes.
Gaston pulling out his cousin's Michigan ID, insisting that was him, but unable to answer basic questions. Gaston then arrested and turned over to immigration. The U.S. Embassy contacted, and later, a representative with the State Department, snagging Gaston's prints while asking him to fill out a passport application.
And they get a hit back that it's top 15 most wanted, Corey Gaston.
Hearing the news of Gaston's capture, everyone in disbelief.
I've wanted to get to this point for the last 10 years.
Including Gaston's alleged victim.
I don't have to look behind my car at night. I don't have to be scared no more.
Gaston now sitting in a jail cell in Detroit as the little girl he stole so much from is now the proud mother of a 4-year-old girl. She and her mother planning to face him in court.
We hate you for what you did to me, but we love you for bringing me back home to my family.
As these guys say, they pray this woman never has to worry again.
He has no power over you, and you are going to continue to live your life in happiness, and he's going to be in a cage for the rest of his.